Oh, me? I've just been fake dead for 2 years. What's going on with you?
How are you doing?
How's your day moving along?
The kids, you know?
That is a bold response.
100%. It's unhinged.
Let's take a sip of tea of the town.
Okay, are you ready for kind of a windy one?
Ooh, yes. I love a windy one.
We are going to talk about the author who came back from the dead.
What?
Yeah. So this is the bookish community world.
Oh, there's always some good tea in the book community.
Specifically, we are digging into the romance subgenre, and they refer to themselves usually as like Romancelandia, which I love.
Ooh.
I think that's a vibe. We're going to talk about this author. I do just want to note that we are going to discuss suicide claims, some mental health issues, grief. So if any of those things might be triggering, you can definitely just skip this episode. We will be back next week, but just want to be clear that we are going to discuss those things in this episode. So where does this story start? With the author Susan Meachin.
Okay.
And she's a Tennessee-based self-published romance author.
Okay.
She's published over a dozen romance books.
Oh, wow.
And she's very active in the Romancelandia community. She's definitely not a household name because it's pretty niche. She's self-published. But she was really known and visible inside of her small community of authors and fans.
Okay.
So here's a couple of the titles that she has published. It's, a collection of what she calls flawed romances, perfectly flawed romances. So she writes about things that don't necessarily always have a happy ending or are controversial in some way. And all of these are self-published. So they don't necessarily have like a quality filter, right? Because there's not an editing, there's not officially an editor who's saying yes, no. There's not a publisher who's like vetting it, right?
Okay.
It's self-published. Before we dig into the story, I actually just want to share with you something that I found delicious, which is I came across a video of someone who had talked about this story and talked about the psychological element of it and like what his thoughts were. And he's a doctor who's on YouTube. And he read a little bit of the books and had a little bit of a review to give the public. And I just want to play that for you just to set the scene.
Please do.
I looked at two of her books. One was titled Stolen Moments and the other Close Encounters. I read as much as I could tolerate, which was not a lot. It became clear fairly quickly why Susan struggled to make any money. There's really no nice way to describe the writing quality in her books.
No.
It was more like a collection of words. Many, many words. It felt like a never-ending supply of words. These words were divided into paragraphs, but there wasn't much rhyme or reason to the construction of the paragraphs. They were more decorative than anything else. The books attempted to tell stories about characters, but there really wasn't any character development, and the stories were not compelling. The books left me wondering if there were hidden messages in the titles. For example, Stolen Moments may refer to the experience of the readers, like reading the book was stealing moments of their lives.
Right.
Close Encounters could have referred to how being abducted by aliens would have been more pleasant than reading the book. And Susan had another book titled Losing Hope, which could refer to the reader losing hope that the book would ever end.
No.
Yeah. So that was like the most savage read that I've probably ever seen for it was savage.
I was going to say, I love how like monotone he delivered this absolutely like scathing read of this woman.
Yes.
But also like it sounded like fair criticisms. I don't think there was anything that was bad.
Right? Maybe there's something interesting in there that people really liked that did read the books. I don't know, but I just I had to share that because I was literally on the floor.
Yes.
On the floor. The monotone. I will link the full video if you want to see this creator's take on the situation. But it was so savage in the most monotone delivery, and I couldn't handle it. So I had to share.
I'm here for it. I love it.
So that's what we're working with. All right. So a little bit more about the community that she was a part of. So it wasn't just that she was an author. She actually ran this Facebook group called The Ward. And she published her books and she would promote them in The Ward, but it was a community of other authors and fans in this one Facebook group. And the only reference I could find to the size was that it was about 700 members. So it's not huge, but definitely like enough people to have a community vibe, right? And she was super active on The Ward. She was an admin. She created the whole group. And this was really where she spent a lot of time. So she was very active in it. She developed a lot of relationships with the people in this community. And she spent a lot of time in this forum and managing it and, doing all of the community-oriented things to like bring this community together.
Yeah. And
so she was, it's an understatement to say she was well known in The Ward in this Facebook group.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where this starts, is she's a self-published author. She runs this community forum and she's done a ton of self-published books. And she actually, throughout her time in The Ward, she shared a lot of public details about her struggles over the course of time. She had mental health struggles. She also shared a couple of incidents where like her family would have health struggles. There was even some fundraisers that she did that she talked about
like
in
for
the
herself.
forum. For herself and then one for her husband.
Okay.
She at one point said I think she said she had lupus, or she had a kidney problem, or she said a bunch of different things. And there were various points where she had fundraisers or she had talked about it in the group.
Okay.
And so the group was very involved in her life, you could say, from that standpoint, or they just knew a lot about her. And I think that creates some closeness, right? Like if you're trying to help or support someone, like you feel connected to that person beyond just like the interaction on the forum, right?
Yeah. And I know that like a lot of forums like these, people do genuinely create these connections with one another through, this type of vulnerability. And a lot of times when people are lonely, or especially, it can be easy to use something like this to create actual friendships.
And that is definitely what Susan said this was to her. Like her husband's a truck driver, and so he would be away and she would be alone a lot. And so she sort of discovered this world of romance writing and Romancelandia, and she got really into it, and it was a big part of her identity.
Yeah.
And because she had mental health struggles, I think it was a really big part of her identity, and that's where she found community, and I took from it a lot of meaning and those types of things, right? Yeah. This is where it goes off the rails, just off the rails.
Oh no!
So this was October of 2020. So this is in the middle of COVID era, right? Which frankly, I think is maybe why a lot of this went down. Just the environment, everyone's stuck at home. No one can verify anything.
Yeah.
It's a different vibe. So anyway, this all goes down in October in 2020. And this post pops up on The Word, and I'm just going to read it to you. This is from Susan's account. And it says, "Sorry, thought everyone on this page knew my mom passed away. Dead people don't post on social media. I've been on this account for a week now, finishing her last book, which was my wedding gift from her. If you'd like to talk to some of the people who have been helping me, let me know. We've asked for very little from everyone, but I'm asking that you leave," tagging a person, "alone. She has been a saint through all of this, and she deserves some peace. Again, please be respectful. Now here's the link to her last book, and goodbye."
Wow.
So everyone had a very strong reaction to this, because this is supposedly from her daughter posting it on her account saying, hey, she's passed away.
Yeah.
And she also implies in some of the conversation that it was by suicide.
Got it.
Right. So everyone's like, wow, this is like devastating.
Yeah. I will say, yes, very sad. The way that it's worded is like a little almost abrasive
It is, yeah.
to me. Like, sorry, thought everyone knew. Dead people don't post on, like, I don't know. That's just my initial read on it.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, I had the same reaction. I pulled myself back a little bit because I'm like, I know people react differently in grief.
Sure.
So, you know, whatever happens in someone's, you know, processing of grief, okay. So like you can kind of get over it a little bit. But I mean, when you find out the full story, not so much.
Okay.
So this is from the community's perspective. This is what they know thus far, right? She's passed away from self-unaliving, right? So everyone is devastated. And then the community starts sort of going into this swirl of accusations because part of what this account is saying is like she felt bullied by the community and that contributed to her mental health state.
Oh.
And so there's all of these swirling accusations in the community about bullying. And I guess it is a very dramatic community. I mean, romance writers, you would guess
That there's some level of drama and
There's
theatrics in it. Yeah.
100% is probably, I get it, right? I mean, you would expect. And this becomes a whole part of the narrative about her death is like these bullying accusations that, hey, this was a contributor to her mental health state and to her eventual self-unaliving, right? It's not like a fun time right now in this little sub-community. And a lot of the members are just mourning also, like they're grieving this whole situation. And understandably, right? Because she was very active in the community. She was an administrator. She spent a lot of time in this group.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of posts that are like condolences, memorials, just messages that are just like, I can't believe this. This is my last interaction. And it's, you know, genuinely a group of people who knew somebody who they believe has passed away and they're grieving.
Yeah.
And then it sort of becomes more action oriented. So there's a couple things that happened. One is there's crowdfunding that occurs for her funeral expenses because what do people do immediately? They want to take action. So there's some crowdfunding that happens for her funeral expenses to support her family.
Well, that's kind.
There's also donations that people start making to suicide prevention groups, which I think is great.
I love that.
Right? And then there's also offers of help to the daughter to like help to edit her final book for free at no cost or to help promote the book. And so just as a show of support for the family. So a lot of people are starting to contribute like money, labor, public acts of like care based on this, which you would expect and is a very normal reaction to someone passing away in a community.
For sure.
The next thing that happens is there's a bully romance anthology that's dedicated to Susan. I'm going to explain to you that
I was like, those are all words.
They are all words. I didn't know what they meant either, and I had to look it up. Apparently, bully romance is like a subgenre of romance where there's like romance with bullying involved, like a bully and a victim having a romance or other types of bullying type stories.
Okay.
Look, from what I read about it, like I don't vibe with it. I'm like, that feels real weird and messed up, and I'm not. Anyway.
Yeah, you know, I'm not gonna yuck anyone's yum. We all have our weird things.
Yep.
Not for me.
Not for me at all. So there's an anthology that's being created, and in what I read is that this anthology was not for her, but it was already in the process of creation because there were some other bullying incidents in the community that had been discussed, and they were doing it for that, like just as a like show of anti-bullying. But I mean, it's weird. I don't get it. Anyway, they dedicated this anthology to Susan because it was finishing right as like this occurred. And this is the dedication. They like dedicated the anthology to Susan, just in a show of support and respect for someone who they thought had passed away. And that bullying had contributed to their passing.
Okay. I think that's a, sweet acknowledgement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then let's talk about the final book. So there's this final book that she says, her daughter says was her wedding gift. And it's called Love to Last a Lifetime. And this final work is sort of put online after some people had contributed to editing it for free, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that they kind of come together as a community to help finish this final book, and then her daughter puts it out, right, as her legacy.
Just as a side note,
Mm-hmm.
just as my own personal commentary,
Mm-hmm.
I will say I'm assuming I'm not a big, like, I don't really get into romance novels. It's just like not the genre that I'm drawn to, but I am aware of what is written in them.
Yeah.
And if my mother gave me like a sexy romance novel as like a wedding, I'm like, I don't want to read what's in your brain. That
hardcore agree.
So again, not trying to like yuck anyone's yum, not trying to put anyone down, but I'm just like, I don't want my mom writing a sexy book for me.
No, ever. Same. It feels real weird.
Just a little.
Just for a few reasons.
Yeah.
But I don't disagree with you.
Okay,
so then something starts to evolve that's very unhealthy, which is a bunch of finger pointing around the bullying. Ooh. So there's a bunch of accusations inside of the community, like who's responsible for this bullying? Like who did it? And this is one of the posts that I wanted to share with you. So this is essentially one of the authors accused another author of bullying. So this author, Dylan Cross, basically screenshotted a something from another author, Samantha Cole, and said, "See, this is what happens in our group, and this is really bad and leads to, someone actually self-unaliving themselves." This is the post from Dylan. An author in our community was actually bullied into committing suicide. Allegedly, this person was involved, and he screenshots this other author, Samantha Cole. Reposted from another group, exercise caution. And this is the post that he screenshotted from Samantha Cole. It's been suggested that I was responsible for what happened with Susan, and everyone wants to cry bullying at every turn. The bottom line is, nobody makes you do anything except the person in the mirror. If she committed suicide, it's because she was weak and not because someone else gave her a hard time once or twice. If you can't take a little bit of criticism and heat, maybe you shouldn't have been an author in the first place. Or you should have seen a psychiatrist. If you didn't, it's on you, not me.
Oh, I think that's pretty tone deaf.
It's horrible
to imply that someone is weak. Like, that is not at all. I heard a lot of discourse around, what it means when someone self-unalives, and like, it is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of pain.
Yeah, 100%.
So I don't love what she is saying.
But this is what makes it even worse. After some digging, like, this was swirled around the community, but after some digging, like, apparently Dylan had a beef with Samantha, like a separate beef with Samantha. And Samantha claims she never said this, and this was a fake account that posted it. And I think this is true because Samantha actually has like commented on a bunch of videos and said, like, this is not my account. And it is like, apparently it's like a spoof account that kind of tried to spoof her, and she had another account. And so everyone was blaming her for saying this, but she never said it. And this other author who had a beef with her was blaming her in all these forums. So it gets real messy.
God, so now people are bullying her.
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay, that's bad.
And I don't know anyone's intentions in this. I just know that there's a lot of he said, she said finger pointing going on. And I don't know if Dylan knew that this was fake or is trying to defend or what. I don't know the situation, and I'm not close enough. But I will say this just evolved into a bunch of finger pointing and a bunch of like posts, fake posts, circulating screenshots, all these things, which just became a swirl of drama.
Yeah.
And, definitely Samantha, who knew Susan and interacted frequently with Susan, like, was kind of at the center of a lot of this, and she ended up getting some of the blame for it, which was kind of wild.
Yeah.
So,
and it's kind of sad that what initially started off as like a really beautiful community reaction where people are coming together and acknowledging the harms and stuff, then devolves right back into bullying.
Oh, yeah. Fully.
Wow.
Yeah. So, interesting fact, this is all going on, and that Susan's account stays active. So the daughter purportedly keeps posting on her mom's behalf, like promoting her books and stuff. And so while this is all going on, like that account is still kind of active, not getting involved in any of that stuff, but more, or maybe there was actually, I take that back. There was a couple of posts, I don't have the screenshots, so there was one post that was like referencing the fact that, this was such a harmful community, and there was a lot of like harmful things that happened in the community, not specifically calling anyone out at all, but this account did imply like, okay, yeah, like it was not a healthy place for my mom to be.
Okay.
This account stays active, but really is mostly like promoting the book.
Yeah.
So here's an example of one of the posts. You can tell me your reaction to this, but this is a post from her daughter using Susan's account. Unless something changes in the next 21 days, all of Mom's books will be unpublished. Her paperbacks will be going on sale and then unpublished. The only way you'll be able to get the books will be through audio. Her sales and page reads have been zero for a few months now, and it's a waste of my time to work them every morning after work with zero movement. Hell, we hired a PA to help, and it's not helped any so far. So if you want any of her work, then now is the time to pick them up. Also, this account will be dark except for audio promoting.
Okay, so my initial reaction would be, okay, I'll preface this by saying I obviously know nothing about like the self-publishing process, and maybe I am misunderstanding what is involved, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of publishers where it's like you can publish a book and then they just like handle the production, and you're just like, you put it online, and then anytime somebody orders it, they make it to order. So it almost feels like a false urgency that's being created, and it feels more like a marketing tactic than anything, where you're creating this sense of urgency of get it now before it goes away forever.
I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
I don't disagree with you. That's how I reacted to it as well. Like, this feels, knowing that, like, how the story plays out, an author coming back from the dead, you can guess what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, knowing that, this reads 100% as like, I'm trying to get this book promoted and I want sales, and there's nothing happening right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And then one other thing happens. An account TN Steele pops up. And this account was created about a month after the purported self-unaliving.
Wow.
And becomes an admin for the group.
Okay.
So there's like this handoff where the admin hands it over to TN Steele, and TN Steele starts posting and is super active in the community and is like, I'm going to make this a really fun place to be, and this is going to be a place to be to come and hang out, and I'm going to do games, and we're going to do discussions and all this stuff, right? So TN Steele is an active admin in the count, right?
Okay.
We know where this is going.
Yeah.
So 2 full years pass, right? 2 full years go by. And then this post appears in the forum. Okay, here it is. From Susan's account. I debated on how to do this a million times and still not sure if it's right or not. There's going to be tons of questions and a lot of people leaving the group, I'd guess. But my family did what they thought was best for me, and I can't fault them for it. I almost died again at my own hand, and they had to go through all that hell again. Returning to the ward doesn't mean much, but I am in a good place now, and I am hoping to write again. Let the fun begin.
2 years?
2 years later.
She pops off with this. First and foremost, love that she throws her family under the bus.
Right?
Like, my family did what they thought was best. I wouldn't have done that personally, but it was my family. Wow.
Yep. So she basically pops back up and she's like, oh, I'm alive, BT dubs. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's just like, I I'm here and, let the fun begin, which is sort of ominous.
It is.
Like a bit ominous. Anyway, so this starts a bunch of drama, right?
I do love the dramatic reentrance, though. I have to say, like a flair for the dramatics for sure.
For sure, no question. And so first person who starts to pop off about this, not surprisingly, is Samantha, who was like blamed for the bullying.
Yes.
All this stuff happened. So she does a post and she's like, I'm not sure where to start. This is the message that I got. She's apparently alive. It was supposedly the person who was posting was her daughter, but we don't believe that. And she actually reaches out directly to Susan to be like, yo, what happened? And then she posts the screenshots of that conversation, and I'm going to share those with you.
Oh my God, yes.
So she messages Susan, what's going on? This is Susan's response. Nothing. I simply want my life back. My family was in a bad place and did what they thought was best for me. So my family faked my death.
What's going on?
Nothing.
Oh, me? I've just been fake dead for 2 years. What's going on with you?
How are you doing?
How's your day moving along?
The kids, you know?
That is a bold response.
100%. It's unhinged. And then this is another highlight. Another part of the conversation, she was accused of like not even having a daughter and making up a daughter. And so Susan was like, this is what I'm hearing. Do you even have a daughter? Was that you the whole time? And she said, I do have a daughter and a son. I'm not worried about the book world letting me back in. I was never really in. It's very dramatic.
It's so dramatic. I'm not worried about it because I was always on the outs. Like, I'm just like, girl, okay, come on, chill.
So then she responds, all you had to do was say that you were leaving the book world and everyone would have respected that. But to have someone post that you killed yourself is absolutely disgusting.
True.
So she posts this conversation and basically says like, look, y'all, this was all a farce. And I got caught in the middle and I hate it. So there was obviously a ton of just shock that this was really what was going on the whole time. And she never was dead. And she's been posting this whole time. So everyone, of course, is like, well, that was just you. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then, of course, it comes out that Tian still is also just her, right? Of course.
A shock to no one.
This is what they do. Like, the fake dead people are always creating this whole world of accounts and posting and, like, Scooby-Doo masking. It's just wild, right? And so, yes, Tian Steele was her. She admits that Tian Steele was her.
Yeah.
And what's wild is also, like, Susan is interacting with people in the forum, and she starts to say things like, well, and she says this in interviews too, because there's a couple of interviews that she does after the fact. Well, isn't it a good thing that I'm alive? Like, you saying that you didn't, that you're upset about me returning basically is just you wishing that I was dead.
And this is so manipulative. It's so manipulative because nobody is saying, oh, we wish you were dead.
Yeah.
But she's trying to turn it on its head and be like, oh, so you'd rather I be? No.
Yeah.
What we're saying is it's a horrible thing that you lied about. Literally self-unaliving. That is horrible.
Yes.
And you caused a lot of trauma and you're just trying to kind of skirt past all of that. Not only that, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge, like, she's coming back saying, I was in a bad place. My family was in a bad place. So they thought this was the best way for me to, like, step away. And yet you're actively posting on the forum and engaging as this other person, Tian Steele. So your whole narrative around, like, I was just doing what was best for me and I needed to get away. No, you did. You're still there.
Right. Exactly.
You never left.
Exactly. You were there the whole time watching everyone talk about this and grieve and organize and fundraise. And that was also one of the criticisms. Like, you literally, like, defrauded people out of money because they're organizing for your death that is fake.
Yes.
And that's one of the responses she had to it was like, well, what?
Where's the money?
So you would rather that I be dead? It would be fine if I collected money if I was really dead. So you want me to be dead? It's like, what are you doing?
Meanwhile, she's pulling a full Tom Sawyer, observing everyone's grief over her death. Wow, this is wild.
Yep. Real weird. So this all comes out. it explodes in the community. Everyone's pissed, rightly so. Rightly so.
Yes.
And the family actually responds as well. So this gets picked up by the news. So it kind of comes out of this little community and it starts to get picked up by the news.
Yeah.
And the New York Times did an entire debrief on it.
Really?
And interviewed her family and interviewed her. So we did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's
some details. So I'm going to take you through some of the things that were covered in the New York Times article and a couple of other locations as well.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it was confirmed, absolutely, she is having some pretty serious mental health issues.
Clearly.
She's diagnosed bipolar. She's been treated for it. She's being treated for a psychotic break. And so she was legitimately having a lot of very serious struggles with mental health.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a part of this that, like, I am empathetic for that, because when you're losing your connection to reality, like, that is really difficult. And part of what she said and her family said was the reason this went down is because one of the mechanisms for her disconnecting from reality was engaging in this fantasy world, and she would lose the boundaries between reality and fiction.
Yeah.
And what her family says in the articles is that they did partly blame the forums. And there was a suicide scare situation, and the daughter actually does take the blame for it. She's like, blame me, I did it. I went on and I did post that because I didn't want her involved in the community.
Yeah.
Because this was one of the things that was triggering her.
Yeah.
And was making her disconnect more from reality. So the daughter does say, yeah, I did it.
Okay.
I don't know if I believe it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it could definitely be her defending her mom, because there's legal implications, obviously, because there was money involved or whatever. And there was an investigation that happened locally.
Oh, wow.
I don't know where that investigation ended, because it was, small potatoes in terms of money. But like, the part of me was like, well, was she just defending her mom? I don't know. But she does fully in the New York Times article say, yep, we believed as her family that the forum and her engagement there, not that it was evil or anything, but that it was one of the sources that would disconnect her from reality. So we didn't want her in there anymore. And so we wanted to shut it down. And so we made this post.
Yeah.
So they did take the blame for it.
I mean, I can see also, like, if you are genuinely concerned about your mom's mental health, which I do believe she is, and you're already concerned with the amount of heat that she's getting from this community, that, like, you would throw yourself in front of it willingly. Yeah. So I can see that why her daughter might have done that. And because I don't know that it was, I mean, nobody will know whose idea it truly was, but clearly she did have mental health issues.
Yeah.
But wow.
Yeah. And the husband is also quoted as saying, I'll take 100% of the blame. Because the husband and the daughter kind of had the same narrative about what had happened.
Yeah.
And, I have a lot of empathy for them, because when you watch someone who is struggling with mental health issues and you see that up close, it's really hard to know what to do. It's really hard to find help, support. It's very complicated.
Sure.
And very clearly she's struggling with mental health. She did say in the interview, by the time that this came out, like, that she's in a good place. She has things more under control. I think it's just a really complicated situation, because from my perspective, I understand the complexities of, like, the mental health situation that she was dealing with. But also when you then look at how that translated into her, she was still showing up in the forums and manipulating things and watching all of this go down, and, like, that's not excusable.
No.
Like, it's really not. And especially what happened with all the finger pointing and blame and all of that, that's really
yeah. And that other author who got so much heat, and that, like, I just think it took some really ugly turns. And yes, mental health can really cause people to do some bad things, but at the end of the day, you still have to take accountability. You can't just say, like, well, I was in a really bad place, because it doesn't, you caused hurt, you caused problems, you defrauded people.
Exactly.
And you gotta own up to that.
Yeah. So I think in the end, after kind of reading the retrospective of it and the like actual interviews with the family, I did have more empathy for her. But at the end of the day, when you look at like the posts that she made, the way that she was watching, the way that she was making all these fake accounts, I'm like, it's just hard to believe anything
Yeah.
that she's saying. And at the end of the day, accountability has to be there. And if it's not, and it still, even in the interviews, like she doesn't really take full accountability for it being a really bad thing. She keeps saying, well, legally, I didn't do anything wrong. And like, it's all this stuff that's like, no, but you did.
Yeah.
And I don't, I don't think it's wrong. And she even says a couple of things like, well, why am I being blamed for creating this like, fictional alternate reality when that's what we all do in the forum? And it's like, come on. Like it's
like, girl,
no,
be so for real. You can't, no, that's like, I feel for her. I feel for the mental health struggles, but at the same time, if she's not willing to change, it gets to a point where it's like,
yeah,
you're not a healthy person.
Absolutely not. And especially for 2 years for this to go on to not even correct. Because her daughter was saying like, I wanted her to be like, quote, dead to the indie world, like the indie author world. Yeah. And so that's how I expressed it. And so, if you're not going to correct that through the course of 2 years, but also still participate in the forum and do all the, like, no, absolute hard no. Not okay.
Not at all.
We don't like it. So that's the story. That is the tea that I have for you on this author that, came back from the dead. And it is a bit of a complicated story, but at the end of the day, I think we know who's to blame here.
I think we do.
And I'm like not I have some sympathy. Just, I know that's really difficult, and I've seen issues like that play out up close, and it's really hard to deal with.
For sure.
But you can't just not take accountability for your actions.
No, it gets to a point where it's like once you've come out, once you've received help, you've got to own up to the hurt that you've caused, the pain that you've caused, and she's not willing to do that. And so for those reasons, I'm like, not messing with you. But man, this was a winding tale.
Yeah.
This was crazy. Thank you for this,
of course,
fascinating rabbit hole.
Yeah. The number of people that have faked their death.
Why are people out here just faking their death left and right?
I thought it was all like older historical, like early internet stuff. But this was funny that happened during COVID. I feel like the same vibes came back to life, where like you couldn't really verify stuff. No one could leave home. We weren't interacting in person. It was all just online again.
Yeah, exactly. So people were like, perfect time.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, this was amazing. Cheers to the community and the way that they showed up, because I think that was commendable.
I love that. Yes.
Cheers.
Let's take a sip of tea.